Jeremy, I wanted you to share the new numbers on illegals pouring into the nation that the administration is lying to us about. What are the facts, Jeremy Beck?
Well, we're breaking records all over the place. August was hit a new record for border encounters, and September just broke that record. All told, in the last year, we've got 6 million encounters at the border. Sorry, not the last year, since January 2021. 6 million people at the border. There's two ways to think about illegal immigration's impact on the United States. There's the impact on the border itself and on the men and women who are there protecting the border, and there's the impact on the interior of the United States. The best way to measure the impact at the border is what's called the encounter. These are aliens that are encountered at the border and processed and either returned to their home countries or released into the country. 6 million people over the past 2 fiscal years have been encountered at the border. Now, on top of that, there's another estimated 2 million people or who are so-called gotaways. Those are people who have avoided detection, have crossed the border into the country illegally, and made it into the interior. So they also have an impact not just on the border, but also on the interior. And on top of that, you have another 2 million people who reach the border and are released, mostly through a violation of parole policy, and they're released into the country and sometimes given a work permit, sometimes not given a work permit, but either way, they get into the interior of the country, and they're likely to remain for many years, if not in perpetuity, because we have no interior enforcement system to remove them. On top of that, you have visa overstays. These are people who enter the country legally on a visa, but when their time is up to go home, they violate the terms of their visa and they remain. That's another 1.7 million people over the past 2 years since January 2021. So all told, the impact on the interior is the equivalent of the combined populations of Los Angeles, Chicago, and Dallas over the past 2 years of illegal aliens who have made it into the interior of the country and are likely to remain under our current protocols and procedures.
Oh, Jeremy, isn't this Barack Obama's ultimate plan? Remember, he said, give me another 30 million people into the U.S. that come from somewhere else and now dramatically transform the nation forever. I mean, isn't this basically Barack Obama's immigration plan laid out ahead of us?
It's interesting. A lot of the, even Barack Obama's DHS secretary had a metric where he said, if we reach a certain level, it's chaos at the border, and we have to take control of it. We blew by that level months and months and months ago. The proposal that we are supporting, Numbers USA is supporting in Congress, is a bill called H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act, and includes a lot of provisions that combine ideas across multiple administrations. There's Remain in Mexico, which you will recall was a highly successful Trump policy, but also closes some loopholes, including some that the Obama administration tried to close through the courts, but were unable to. We're asking Congress to close them. The House of Representatives passed that bill, passed H.R. 2 in the spring. It is now on the table in the Senate if senators would actually pick it up and pass it. It closes loopholes, it restores Remain in Mexico, and it will drastically reduce the border crisis that we're seeing right now. And that is putting incredible strain on our border facilities, our border agents, as well as our cities in the interior and the communities where migrants are settling.
I mean, Jeremy, the bottom line is you want to turn this into a campaign issue because it's never getting out of the Senate. And even if it did, Biden wouldn't sign it. And even if he had to sign it, he wouldn't implement it. So basically nothing will happen. So the only thing you can do with H.R. 2 is turn it into a campaign issue in 24. Is that the ultimate goal?
Well, we certainly want to hear all the candidates talking about it. And that's something that, frankly, voters and listeners to your show can ask their favorite candidate, what's your position on H.R. 2? Why don't you learn more about it? You can learn more about the bill on our website, numbersusa.com. But we need people, speak up. We don't need new ideas. This is really, these are tried and true, tested programs and policies that will work. They've worked before. They've worked in past administrations. So we do need candidates talking about it. It's not a foregone conclusion that it can't somehow get pushed through Congress. It did pass the House. There's a huge funding fight right now. One of the things that voters and listeners need to understand, and we can we can tell our representatives in Congress that we get it, because there's always a game that's played, kind of a shell game, where Congress will say, we're reading the polls. We know that voters are worried about the border. They're worried about the security. They're worried about the national security implications. We're going to throw a lot of funding at border security. But funding without reform just means that we process people and release them into the country faster.